It is finally my favorite season. I love the fall. And in Canada, it is fall. I know not everywhere in the world it is, but right now, it's my favorite season. It's a time where you can put your scarf back on and your sweaters, and the leaves are changing colors, becoming really pretty. In Canada, we have maple trees, which turn red, orange, brown, and it's just so pretty. In the fall, many animals start preparing for winter. Squirrels, for example, gather and store nuts. And then there's the harvest moon. This is the full moon closest to the fall or autumn equinox, and it's called the harvest moon. It's named for the extra light it provides, allowing farmers more time to harvest crops before the shorter days of winter set in. And we're going to see harvesting really relates to the metal element and fall season and the long and large intestine system. In today's episode, I'm diving into TCM Nutrition, specifically focusing on the long and a bit of the large intestine as it relates to the fall season and, like I said, harvesting to prepare for winter. We will look at the symptoms and food recommendations for the four most common TCM lung patterns of diagnosis: heat in the lung, phlegm in the lung, lung qi deficiency, and lung yin deficiency. Those are not exclusive, but they're common, so it's easier to kind of look at the food that we can recommend our patient, because each pattern offers unique insights into how diet can either hinder or support the TCM lung system. I'm also going to share a personal story, and stay till the end because I have a free PDF I created especially for you. You are going to love. Let's go. Welcome to AcuPro, a show dedicated to making Chinese medicine and acupuncture easy to grasp and fun to learn. Hi, I'm your host, Clara Cohen. I support practitioners and students like you in changing the world one patient at a time. My goal is to share my passion for TCM and empower you to achieve superior patient care. I love to showcase the amazing benefits of acupuncture because, after all, acupuncture rocks. In Chinese medicine, the lung is connected to the fall season, as I said in the introduction. It's a time when yang energy from the summer starts to slowly wane and yin energy takes its place preparing for winter. Fall is seen as a period of preparation, reflection, and moving on from the summer to a quieter time. The long and large intestine in TCM are associated with the fall season, specifically in the five-element theory. It is a time of transition and a time of letting go, because the large intestine is the organ that lets go. The lung is connected to respiration, immunity, and the large intestine is connected to elimination. As the air becomes cooler and the trees are drying and everything around us is drying, it's important to protect the lung by keeping them moist and strong. This is a time where I see a lot of patients with asthma that start having very dry cough or dry nose. A lot of people start having dry skin as well. When you think of the fall, it's not just the season in the year, but it's also the season of our lives. And for transition like menopause in women, this is the fall of our lives. And what happened during menopause? Everything starts to dry. Skin's dry, there's vaginal dryness. So fall is really associated with the dryness climate in the five-element theory. This is why it's really important to keep hydration and moisture for the lung and large intestine. Make sense? So this is a time to focus on nourishing the lung with warm, hydrating foods like pears, apples, and soups. And we want to support the large intestine with high fiber rich food, but also with food that brings probiotics into the large intestine in order to have a strong immune system to prepare for winter, flu, and cold season. We want to emphasize on breathing exercises, which makes sense because the lung is all about breathing. Letting go and reflection is part of the fall, and it encourages introspection and the release of what no longer serves us. Emotionally, this season represents grief, sadness, and let it go. Supporting mental health by acknowledging and processing emotions can support the lung and the immune system overall. Creating a daily routine that includes time for relaxation, reflection like journaling, and gentle movement will support both physical and emotional health. Now, during the fall, it's vital to nourish the lung and large intestine by avoiding excessive pathogens. And where this pathogen enters the body? Through the upper back and neck, specifically wind, external wind enters the body through that area and brings along heat or cold, like wind heat, wind cold, which is basically common cold or the flu. So I love to wear scarves because they are perfect to protect the nape from invasion of external wind. And we also want to prepare for winter. So we can do canning, do preserves, do jams, basically take everything that we need to have ready for winter for the next season. And we want to let go of summer by practicing journaling and writing everything that we need to let go that no longer serves us. Now, today's episode is specific to nutrition, right? The uniqueness of each individual is key to healing in TCM. So treatment when it comes to nutrition is always tailored to one personal characteristic, environment, and stage of life. We're not going to treat the same way a young man in his 16 years old and a woman in her menopause. Of course not, right? So when it comes to TCM nutrition, though, we still have 4 principles that apply to everyone. First, we want to eat food that are in season. So here, the fall season food. This aligns our diet with the natural rhythm of our environment, of course. Second, we want to eat local food. Local foods are fresher and more harmonious with our surrounding, right? We want to be in harmony with nature. Third, we definitely want to practice mindful eating, which means chewing our food thoroughly and avoiding distraction like working at a desk while eating or being on our phone, right? This is so common. I see this all the time. Being from France, we are used to sit and really enjoy our food and have conversation or gather around the table with friends. And lastly, we want to consider our genetic background in our diet choices. For instance, a first-generation Korean person in the US might be lactose intolerant, reflecting a diet in Korea where dairy is not commonly consumed. Does that make sense? Okay, so before we start talking about the best foods when it comes to lungs specifically, I just want to share a quick story. I have said this many times, but if it's your first time listening to me, I was born premature, 10 weeks premature to be exact, which is a lot, right? And my mom smoked during the whole pregnancy. And according to my mom, who smoked 2 packs a day during her pregnancy, because she's French, babies are born early all the time, and smoking had nothing to do with me being born premature. Okay. Nevertheless, I probably couldn't wait to get out of there to finally breathe fresh air. I probably was in the smoke in there. That's what I'm thinking in my head, right? So when I was born, I was put in an incubator for weeks before I was able to breathe on my own. Well, duh. Of course, I had asthma as a child, but fortunately for me, as I grew older, my lungs got stronger and I've never had to deal with any bronchial issue ever again. So touch wood. What's interesting is for many years now, I have been teaching. And when you teach for 3 hours in a row, you talk a lot. I also record podcasts. I make videos. I talk to my patients. So I speak a lot and use my voice a lot daily. This depletes my lung qi. Singers are the same. You look at Celine Dion. By the way, Celine Dion is born the same day as me. So if you want to know how old I am, Google Celine Dion's birth date. You'll see how old I am because we are exactly born the same day, same year, same day, same month. Her lung qi must have been so depleted because she sang to her heart's content for decades. And I don't know if you've seen the documentary on her disorder. She's been diagnosed with stiff person syndrome. It's really, really sad to watch because she has such talent. But I also believe that she overworked her whole life, overused her lung qi, her voice, and just didn't really have time to kind of breathe, relax, and reflect a lot. And what was interesting in that documentary, one of her sons asked her, what's the place you've been in the world that you love the most? Because she's traveled the world, right? And she said, I've been to so many places in the world, but I've never seen any of them because all I did when I was there is I was working. And when I heard that, it made me really sad because you can see that people can have a lot of money and do things that they're really passionate about, but they miss out on life. And that's really sad to see, right? So anyway, if you haven't seen this documentary, sorry for the sidebar, but it really, really touched me again because she's also from Quebec. She's French. I'm from France, but we speak the same language. She has a French accent when she speaks English, like I do, and we're born the same day. So I relate to her a lot, except I can't sing. I can't sing for the life of me. So if you've watched my YouTube videos live where I sing, you know what I'm talking about. Now, because we're talking about nutrition, I really truly love how nutrition can heal our body. And TCM Food Cures is amazing if the patient is willing to be compliant, which is not always easy, right? That's the hard part, is compliancy. So here are the best food for the 4 most common TCM lung patterns, along with some great recommendation. By the way, if you missed it, in the show notes, I will also have the link to episode number 12, which is the food recommendation for the liver patterns, which I released in the spring, and number 24, which are the food for the heart, which I released in July. And the kidney is coming in December for you, so you're going to have them all pretty soon. Let's look at the first common pattern. We're talking about chronic heat in the lung. I'm not going to talk about acute today, only about chronic. So heat in the lung would have dry cough, feeling hot during the day, having a red tongue, having yellow nasal discharge, maybe having an itchy throat often, dry bowel movement that is smelly, and constipation probably. And the person cannot focus because they're hot all the time. They probably wake up early in the morning at lung time around 5 a.m. feeling hot. Healing food for heat in the lung are cantaloupe, apple, pear, peaches, radishes, cabbage, papaya, cauliflower, bok choy. Really good to help cool that heat. And on top of it, we want to try to avoid alcohol, coffee, garlic, onion, ginger, all the spicy food because that's going to create more heat. Makes sense, right? So when designing a meal plan for a patient that has lung heat, it's essential to focus on food that are going to clear the heat and cool the lung. You could have pears with nuts. You could have tofu stir-fried with greens served on a bed of quinoa. And you could have mint tea. Mint is very cooling. When I lived in Morocco years ago, they have the best Moroccan mint tea. Oh, so good. And it's very cooling. Even though it's hot in Morocco, when you're drinking a warm drink, it cools you from the inside. So I love that. The second most common pattern in TCM when it comes to chronic lung issue is phlegm in the lung. A lot of people that have asthma have phlegm in the lung, but some people cough phlegm every day, and they might be coughing a lot of phlegm without being sick per se, but there's a lot of mucus that needs to come out, right? They may be wheezing, like I said, or asthma, but not necessarily all the time, but they definitely cough a large amount of mucus. Now, when it comes to the mental symptoms for this, it's usually that people cannot let go of their own possession. So, for example, hoarding or really keeping everything and never letting go of anything. That is a phlegm in the lung because phlegm kind of clouds your judgment. Does that make sense? Good example for foods that dry phlegm are mushroom, seaweed, flaxseed, fennel, asparagus. Those are really good. Lemon as well. And we want to try to avoid dairy because that creates more mucus, of course. And we don't want to have food that is too cold as well because cold has tendency to congeal, which doesn't allow for flow of qi to kind of expectorate and get rid of the phlegm, if that makes sense. So when we look at people that have phlegm in the lung, something like in the morning you could have raspberries with porridge made of quinoa and flaxseed. This is very good. Quinoa is bitter and sweet, so it is drying, which is great. Lentils and mushroom soup with romaine lettuce with lemon dressing would be good. Or just simple ginger and lemon tea, very drying, right? With a piece of dark chocolate on the side, because why not? If you still struggle to come up with the right treatment protocol for your patients, you are going to love my third book. By popular demand, I have created a guide for TCM treatments for over 160 common syndromes with acupuncture points, herbal formula, ear points, diet, and so much more, including many of my clinical pearls. It is the game changer for acupuncture students and specifically for practitioners. You can download the digital version on any device, and it comes with many video links to complement it. Or if you're like me and you'd rather have a hard copy version, the publisher ships it all over the world. But before you invest in my Chinese medicine treatments made easy, I want to make sure it's everything you were looking for so you can download a sample of it. Listen to what people who invest in this book had to say. Thank you, Clara. This is exactly what I needed. I love how you organized this book. It's truly helping me in my first year in practice. Yay! So excited. Bought it immediately. It will be a great resource for studying for boards. That's awesome. Oh my God, I immediately purchased this, and it is such a bargain price that I almost feel ashamed for paying what I believe is worth of much more. Even as an experienced practitioner for over 10 years, I like your stuff just as much and benefit from it. Yay! All this is just so rewarding for me. So I hope you get your copy if you don't have one. The link is in the show notes below, or you can go to my website, acuproacademy.com, and click the shop tab on the menu bar. You won't regret it. I put so much heart and soul in it. I hope you enjoy it and benefit from it, and in turn, your patients do as well. At the beginning, I talked about I have a surprise for you. Well, in the show notes linked below, you can grab my free Chinese Medicine Nutrition PDF. I created it just for you with comprehensive food recommendation for all 5 yin organ common patterns. So not just the lung, but the spleen, the heart, the kidney, and the liver. So make sure to grab your copy in the link below. Now let's continue and look at deficiency pattern when it comes to the lung. First, most common one is lung qi deficiency. I see so many patients, specifically in the fall, who need to boost their immune system to prepare for the flu and cold season, right? So they're usually fatigued, they have a weak voice, they have shortness of breath, they catch cold and flu easily, and it's really hard for them to get over an infection. So that's often the lung qi deficiency. And so we need to really nourish qi with carrot, oat, rice, sweet potato, yam, garlic, molasses, and fatty fish. We also want to restrict food that is raw or a lot of greens or dairy because it's going to make everything worse. When designing a meal plan for a patient with lung qi deficiency, we want to focus on boosting the immune system with probiotic food like sauerkraut. So you could have steamed salmon with a side of sauerkraut and a sweet potato. For a snack, you could have hot cacao. Now, I don't know if you know, but cacao, organic cacao, is full of probiotics. So you can make a hot cacao with almond milk, for example, that you can make yourself, the almond milk, and that is perfect for lung qi deficiency. We can have like a squash and carrot soup, yummy, with maybe some baked chicken on the side if you eat meat. We can have roasted winter squash and carrot soup with ginger in it. Ooh, that would be so good. I'm hungry, are you? Oh man. And the last pattern that is really common, specifically with smokers, is lung yin deficiency, or people that are exposed to a lot of chemicals and it dries their throat. So it would be dry throat, dry cough, feeling hot at night, thirsty for a cold drink but sipping, not gulping, red cheeks, and basically feeling irritable or restless. So the best food to nourish the lung yin would be pears. Pears are great because they're fall food, but they're also very moistening. Apple, also bananas are very moistening. Now we have to be careful because they can create dampness, bananas, so we don't want to overdo it. Tofu, clam, and tempeh are all good food to nourish yin, as well as seeds and nuts. Now we want to avoid bitter food like dandelion, or too hot food or spicy food because it's going to create more heat. And when someone has yin deficiency, of course, they feel overheated, right? Makes sense? So when we look at patients with lung yin deficiency, we can recommend things like a warm porridge with a poached pear and a little bit of drizzle of honey over it, that would be perfect. Or we can have a baked fatty fish like salmon or halibut with a side of kale sauteed and some roasted apples. That sounds good to me. That sounds really delicious. Or we can stir fry some tempeh or tofu with some greens, some mushroom, and serve it over quinoa. Now, one of my favorite snacks in winter, I don't have long yin deficiency, but I have tendency to be more warm, so I have tendency to go more in the yin deficiency side. One of my favorite snack is poached pear with a drizzle of dark chocolate and some walnut. Oh, that's my favorite warm snack in winter. Aren't you hungry by now? This is a short and sweet episode to celebrate my favorite season, the fall. It has been a pleasure guiding you through the TCM approach to lung health. Remember, your TCM journey, whether you're a practitioner or a student, doesn't have to be walked alone. This is why I create all this content for you. And there's so much more at acuproacademy.com. TCM resources, online courses, masterclasses, books, so much for you. On top of it, make sure to grab your TCM Nutrition PDF, which is free and linked in the show note below. If you found value in today's episode, please follow the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Share this episode with a friend, with family, or anyone you know could benefit from this timeless wisdom that is Chinese medicine. You have no idea, but your support means the world to me. And together we can spread the knowledge that can transform lives one patient at a time. Keep nourishing your body, mind, and spirit. Thank you for listening. And until next time, keep rocking it with TCM. Please listen to the disclaimer because the AcuPro Show podcast and material shared through AcuPro Academy, which is a subdivision of Natural Health Sense Incorporated, are designed solely for educational and entertainment purposes. The utilization of information from this podcast or any associated material is at the user's discretion and risk. This content is not meant to replace the guidance of an acupuncturist, Chinese medicine doctor, medical doctor, physician, or any qualified professional, nor is it a substitute for proper diagnosis or treatment. Users are strongly advised not to ignore or postpone seeking medical advice for any existing medical condition with their healthcare professional regarding any health concerns.